Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herald here on Badlands Media. I am your host, Jon Herold, and full disclosure, not soft disclosure, but full disclosure, this episode is pre-recorded. It is pretty early in the morning here. It's 8 a.m. my time, so 4 hours pre-episode, but I have to catch a quick flight. I will be back right away tomorrow morning, so I'll be streaming from here for my power hour tomorrow, but just helping my girlfriend get back. She had her surgery and she can't lift more than 10 pounds. She happens to have a cat with her that is significantly larger than 10 pounds, plus all her luggage. It's a fat cat, so I'm going to help mainly bring the cat home. But anyway, that is why I'm pre-recording this episode. So if there's any breaking news that happens between right now, 8 a.m. my time, and by the time the show goes live, I'm not going to be covering it or discussing it. Also, I didn't quite get as much show prep in, and the show can't be as long as it typically is anyway, but there are a few things I do want to discuss, some interesting things happening for sure. So we'll get into all of that. But before we do, let's do a quick run of our sponsors here. And first up, we got River. And guys, River is kind of kicking butt. Bitcoin generally is kind of kicking butt right now. Stack Sats with River, the Bitcoin-only platform built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Why River? 0 fee recurring buys, stack Bitcoin effortlessly, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. 3.8% Bitcoin interest on cash. FDIC insured, no minimums. Withdraw anytime. Expert US-based support, human help plus private client services. For big buys, 100K plus business accounts, boost your balance sheet with Bitcoin and earn 3.8% paid in Bitcoin. Top tier wallet, send, receive, and manage Bitcoin securely, unmatched security, full reserve custody, multi-sig cold storage, and proof of reserves. Join the Bitcoin revolution at badlandsmedia.tv/river and earn real returns. That's badlandsmedia.tv/river. And if you're going to get Bitcoin, you got to get yourself a cold storage wallet from Trezor. That's Trezor. And they are our cold storage partner. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/Trezor, Trezor. Since 2014, they have over 2 million satisfied customers. But yeah, Bitcoin, it was up over, I think, 121,000 overnight. It's at 120,400 right now. I'm telling you guys, people think you need to have a lot of money to get Bitcoin. With River, you can do as low as $5 a week. That's like one coffee a week. And if you hit it when it's down to like 105 or whatever, 108, whatever it got down to this last couple of weeks, by now it's $7.50 or something, $7. Buy it every week. Make consistent buys at least every month, like your financial advisors used to tell you with the stock market. You'll not be disappointed. I saw a stat recently. If every millionaire in the world, I'm not saying people in the audience are millionaires, I'm just saying this is just a stat I heard. If every millionaire in the world went and tried to acquire just one Bitcoin, just one, like right now today, there would not be enough Bitcoin for everybody. So as this shakes out and as it goes up and people try to acquire it, and people have been trying to acquire it, it's going to be a hot commodity, and you can have a part of it. It's really easy to do. badlandsmedia.tv/river. Also got a quick promo for our GART, but I don't think I have that. I don't think I have that up and running. Let me see if I got that somewhere. Yeah, I do. There we go. We have our GART coming up, guys. Very excited about this one because I love this location. It's in Florida. It's going to be November. It's going to be nice weather when typically here in North Dakota, where I'm at, it's not that nice of weather. So very excited to get down there for this GART. Got a great crew. We're trying to get a potential couple special speakers. I know I say that, and it's the same one every time that I'm trying to get. And every time it doesn't work out. I'm hoping it works out this time. If not, we'll keep trying and maybe do it in a future one. But November 6th through the 9th, Tickets are on sale. I cannot guarantee we're going to make available single-day tickets for everybody because I'm not sure if we're going to sell out the venue. So if you want to attend, I would try to get on it as soon as you can. And also, right now, virtual tickets are on sale, and we're running a early bird pricing, so it's like $5 or $6 off through the 15th. So badlandsmedia.tv/events. Make sure you guys get on that. But all right, let's talk about a couple interesting things that have happened in the last, what's it been, 18 hours since 20 hours since my last show. There's been no update on the Doge website, to be expected. No update on the presidential website, also to be expected. And we're also still in the middle of our shutdown, which is also to be expected. Because yesterday was Yom Kippur, and they did not come to an agreement. They didn't even vote. There's rumors they might vote over the weekend, but I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen. This is what they're saying now, according to CNN Politics. Shutdown day 3, the federal government remains shut down as a deadlocked Congress still hasn't reached a funding deal. Republicans and Democrats are at odds over enhanced Obamacare subsidies. Love that's what they're calling healthcare for illegals. Enhanced Obamacare subsidies. How long will it last? The shutdown is likely to extend into next week. Senate Democrats are expected to block a GOP-backed short-term funding bill again when they vote today. And the Senate is not expected to be in session this weekend. Jobs on the chopping block, of course. I do not subscribe to CNN, so I'm not even going to bother archiving it since I can see what it says. It says jobs on the chopping block. The Trump administration says thousands of government layoffs could begin to be announced as soon as today. The White House has already compiled a list of agencies to target for cuts. Officials tell CNN agencies and activities deemed essential are still open, and we're tracking which programs are affected. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's going to last through the weekend. Kind of here for it. Trump and everybody's drawn attention to Russ Vought, rightfully so. He's posting some stuff on True Social about it. He's posted a couple memes making fun of the Democrats again, Jeffries. It's all great stuff. But he posted a couple stories, and that's the primary thing I want to talk about. One, he posted this again. The FBI bombshell, 274 agents sent to the Capitol for J6. Many later complained they were political pawns. This is the story that he previously posted where he went on that rant and was like, see, I told you they embedded people in the crowd. And that's not quite what happened. If you actually read the report, we've talked about it. These are just people who responded to J6. But this other story is a little more interesting. This is new. And it's this. FBI had 3 informants reporting Biden corruption in Ukraine, but no record of real investigation. That seems kind of naughty. More whistleblowers than previously known came forward alleging Biden family corruption in Ukraine. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley wants to get to the bottom of why the FBI failed to fully investigate the allegations. 3 confidential sources. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson released 2 new FBI FD 1023s, which are records of reporting from the Bureau's confidential human sources that focus on allegations of Biden family corruption. These records match closely to previous memo Grassley released in 2023 containing similar claim. The senator wants to get to the bottom of why the FBI apparently failed to fully investigate those claims. To date, the FBI has never answered Congress whether they investigated the text messages, audio files, and financial records referenced in that 1023. Grassley said in a hearing with Patel in September. So they got more records. When I see stories like this, again, it just makes me think like they're breathing life into the narrative because they want to keep it from flatlining altogether. And the reason they're doing that is because eventually they're going to turn this zombie into a real boy. You know what I mean? Like they're going to make it a thing. It's all going to come around again. And it's going to be good, but they got to keep the stories going. The Biden corruption story is one that we haven't heard in a while. So if I were to guess, I would say sometime in the next couple weeks, we're going to get some sort of massive bombshell about Biden family corruption. Just a guess. I'm not like trying to predict it, but that's like kind of been the pattern is they'll There'll be something that breathes life back into one of the narratives, one of the loose ends, and then we'll get something to further extend that loose end until eventually it comes to its conclusion and they tie it off. I'm a little tired this morning because, well, didn't really sleep well last night, but also I was hoping to get up at 6:30 this morning so that I could start recording my show by like 7, maybe 7:15. But for whatever reason, I set my alarms and everything. I didn't end up waking up till 7:30. And so I'm like a half an hour behind schedule. I'm a half an hour behind on my coffee or it's not my coffee, it's the Unimate stuff. Stuff's so good. And I'm just dragging a little bit. The mental gears aren't firing on all cylinders quite yet. But yeah, so I think it's good. The Slavchesky stuff we've covered a lot over the years. Excited to see where that one goes. Apple has removed the ICE tracking apps from its online store over law enforcement safety concerns. The fact they even allowed it in the first place was kind of remarkable. But yeah, nothing really more to discuss there than that. I'm going to skip that story. There's a story out here I was going to potentially read through. El Salvador's Bukele was forerunner in trend to help nations prosper with Bitcoin. Has it paid off? Yeah, I would say so. The answer arrested was Stacey Herbert, a transplanted American couple Bukele hired to lead El Salvador's Bitcoin push. They promoted Bitcoin as a smart bet since it was worth 30 cents in 2010. Yeah, I mean, they're basically saying, yes, it's paid off. But let's do... We do have another kind of Russ Vought story. Yesterday, we saw he was canceling projects in New York. I think there was a wind farm cancellation he was doing as well. And now we have another one. They're canceling infrastructure projects to some of these blue states, and they're projects that you could argue are definitely corrupt. It's almost like the first step before he's canceling, these the actual jobs and firing people. But I think it's definitely notable. Trump administration puts on hold $2.1 billion in Chicago infrastructure projects, Vought says. The Department of Transportation froze $18 billion to New York City for 2 major federal infrastructure projects, and the Energy Department canceled nearly $8 billion for funding in states won by Kamala Harris. I don't know if this is funding that they're going to eventually send out if these governors start playing ball with the ICE and the deportation, but all of these are blue states. And Trump some of the executive orders he's put out there having to do with ICE and deportations and all those things, they basically threaten if these blue cities and states aren't going to play ball with me, I'm going to withhold funding and make it painful. Now we're starting to see some of these, and I'm not saying this is directly tied to that. I don't know. Maybe it's just a corrupt project, which is a very, very easily to believe situation. But let's keep going here. Barry Weiss is set to become the editor-in-chief of CBS News as Paramount Skydance acquires the Free Press. They're going to name her editor-in-chief. Free Press is her news site. It's apparently worth the deal, $150 million. I don't like Weiss. She's a limited hangout. She said some stupid shit over the years. I guess who hasn't? But she was part of the Twitter Files limited hangout release. There was an old clip, Joe Rogan, Barry Weiss. Let me find this clip. Here we
go. Kirsten Gillibrand. Oh, monstrous. Ideas.
Well, when she was 22, she had...
No, she's an Assad toady.
What does that mean?
She is
What's a toady?
I think that I used that word correctly. Jamie, can you check what toady means?
Like towing the line? Is that what it means?
No, I think it's like a... Toadie.
What does that mean?
I think it means what I think it means.
Toady, definition of toadies. A person
A
who
sycophant,
flatters or defers to others
I
for
kind of used it right.
self-serving reasons.
A sycophant.
So she's an Assad sycophant. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's known about her.
Like, what did she say that
We have to look.
qualifies her?
I don't remember the details.
We
I've read
probably
it.
should say that before we say that about her. We should probably read it rather.
Well, I have read it.
No, I mean, we
just,
should right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just so we know what she said.
Look up
I've had her
Tulsi
on here
Gabbard.
before,
Look
and I
up
really
Tul-
enjoyed talking to her. I like her a lot.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I like talking to her.
Okay.
I like talking to her. I don't know about.
I think she's like the motherload of bad ideas.
Whoa.
I'm pretty positive about that, especially on Assad, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong.
Well,
I mean, I don't need to play the rest of the clip. I think you guys get the idea. This is just one example. She went in on the Nazi salute, Roman salute thing. The whole thing is, I just don't get it. This whole Paramount merger thing, it's Larry Ellison's son who's kind of leading the charge, and Larry Ellison himself and Oracle, they're getting TikTok, and you wanna think there's like this broader push, this bigger, but the plan behind the scenes is like, okay, we're going to fix the media from within by purchasing them all and taking them over and all these things. And they put Barry Weiss in charge for real while paying her $150 million for her website. Come on. I hate it. Not that I would ever read or subscribe to CBS News, regardless of who was the editor in chief. I might pull headlines from there like I do everywhere, but I don't know, just lame. But we got one more story, and then I have a couple clips I want to play, and then I'm going to end with a big story. So we'll start with this one. Just real quick. U.S. Treasury signals support for Argentina amid ongoing economic talks. It's on the Badlands Media website. U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent said Thursday that the department is fully prepared to do what is necessary to support Argentina a week after confirming negotiations over a potential aid program. They had a call with them on Wednesday with the economic minister. Last week, Bessent revealed the Treasury officials were negotiating a $20 billion swap line with Argentina, boosting confidence in the South American nation and supporting President Javier Milei's market agenda. I don't love the idea of us totally helping, just doing charity work to help some of these other countries, but as long as we get the money back and profit from it a little bit, it's not the worst thing in the world. But there's an interview yesterday with Kash Patel, came out last night, and there's a good clip and a bad clip I want to play. Okay. We'll start with the good one.
Speaking of social media, they're up in arms over George Soros and Open Roads as to whether or not his Open Roads Foundation is supporting terrorist organizations that are anti-America and goes against the better interests of our nation.
So organizations, I can't speak to that directly.
George Soros.
And because I can't comment on whether or not we have an actual investigation. But
okay, that's fair.
Speaking to matters like Antifa, for example, right? And the new EO that the president signed and their designations giving us authorities that we never had. What we are able to do is the one thing I've done my entire career under investigations: follow the money. Serve legal process and follow the money. These groups just don't show up overnight. You don't have hundreds of people surround a courthouse overnight and then move down to LA and cause riots and then move halfway across the country and cause disruptions in Chicago and elsewhere. It is an organized effort that someone or some groups are paying for. And what I can tell the American people is we have open investigations on multiple groups and individuals funding these efforts. We have legal process that has already been executed. The search warrant results are coming in.
Should the U.S. formally designate the domestic groups as terrorist organization? If not, what's, Mr. Director, the right to RICO, material support analogs, or case-by-case prosecutions that avoid criminalizing an ideology?
Yes, I think Antifa, specifically speaking, as an example, we have to recognize these groups for what they are. If we as a society just allow these riots to continue, then we as a society are going to be engulfed by the criminal activity these people are doing. LA, You can't attack law enforcement. You can't throw rocks and boulders at law enforcement. You can't in DC assault law enforcement. In Portland, you can't set fire to a federal building and get away with it. How is that acceptable? And it's all being caused. It's not individual acts of violence. It is organized anarchy and chaos. And thanks to the president's initiatives, and when I was there in the Oval Office when he signed it, we are getting after the fight with more resources and tools that we've ever had.
So it's good to get his perspective a little bit on that Trump domestic terrorism, NSPM, and the executive order from before that. And yeah, I mean, I agree. You got to go after the domestic terrorist organizations. Can't let them just do the violence. And the blue states are obviously not going to take care of it. And that's one of the issues here is if the blue states were actually doing the police work they're supposed to be doing, it probably never would have reached this level where you needed to label them as domestic terrorist organization. Like imagine if all the blue states like Portland had a legitimate police force that was going out there and arresting these people every time they actually committed a crime. These people wouldn't be, it may not have gotten to this level where you needed Trump to declare them a domestic terrorist organization. But here we are. But the other clip I want to play is a little more concerning. I think you guys will see why.
The simple answer, in my opinion, is social media is wildly out of control and there's too much clickbait in this country. And one of the things I highlighted at Congress in my testimony last week was if we want to protect our youth, we got to get more involved in social media and online platforms because that's where the folks, the assassins of this world get radicalized. That's where they're the lone wolf actors in general. And so we have to get after that problem set. And I asked for Congress to help in doing so. But speaking of Charlie Kirk, who was a very dear friend of mine.
Let's start there. He says there's too much clickbait in this country, and I agree with him. There is a lot of clickbait. A lot of clickbait. Yes, a lot of these people are getting radicalized online. My concern here, and it stems from his testimony on the Hill when he was in front of Congress, and I think it was one of the Democratic representatives who was talking about 230, Section 230, I think, and censorship and other things. And I'm worried this is a slippery slope. You guys kind of know my stance on this. Even though I don't like the clickbait, even though people say awful things sometimes, if they are not actively like threatening people, they still have the First Amendment right to say it. And censorship is not the answer. Go after the people saying the things that are trying to radicalize the kids. 100%. Totally agree with it. You see that happening, you find that happening, use the legal tools on your tool belt and go get those people. Full stop. But doing like broad censorship it's not going to end well. It's not the answer. I just don't think so. Sorry, I had to pause the video because I had to sneeze. But this has long been a concern of mine because I still don't think we even have like it's not actually an open, free, fair, Wild West situation online anyway. But like if they're going to try to make censorship worse, that's not a good thing. That's not good. Because it's already not good, like perfect by any means. And I'm a free speech absolutist. Awful people have the right to say awful things online. I get a lot of it myself. People say awful things to me. I can mute them myself. I can block them myself. They still have the right to say it. So we'll see where this goes. But there may be a time in the very near future where we need to be actively voicing our displeasure with censorship pushes. I hope it doesn't come, but we'll see. Anyway, let's play more of this clip.
And then I was tasked with leading the nationwide manhunt to find the perpetrators involved. Of course, we were going to use every resource we have to find every single person involved, and the investigation is still ongoing. But we, as one of the pillars of my leadership here at the FBI, is transparency. We've produced more documents to Congress than my last two predecessors combined by twofold. Just to put it in perspective. So when we take our investigations out to the streets, I have the same ethos. And this is how we got Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, so fast. The Boston Marathon bomber, which happened in downtown Boston during the Boston Marathon, took 5 days, and there was a police officer was killed in that manhunt. Luigi Mangione, who allegedly murdered an individual, the CEO of the healthcare company, in downtown Manhattan in broad daylight, took 5 days to find him. Our investigation is very much ongoing. But we've also, Armstrong, in an unusual thing, put out publicly more information as to what we found because it is of such public importance. The flip side of that is the social media people get involved and they come run with their crazy conspiracy theories because it makes them money. It gives them clickbait. And I don't work for them and I don't respond to them. My duty is to the American people. If there was anyone else involved in Charlie Kirk's murder, you can look at our record. We'll find them and we'll get them.
I think you guys know where I stand on this too. There are obvious questions that should be asked regarding the assassination. Like there's video clips emerging and there's statements emerging from people that were close to Charlie and all these other things. Legitimate questions that need to be asked. And we're obviously not being told the full truth about the matter. A lot of the people in the TPUSA side of the Charlie Kirk, you know, like his friends there is whatever. They're playing like the guilt card. Like, how dare you ask questions? We want answers too, but you're making this so much harder for us. But none of them are asking for answers. Not publicly anyway. I've seen some clips of Candace Owen putting stuff out. I don't know how much I trust her. She's done some interesting things, but I just don't know. There's so much. He's right. There's a lot of clickbait. A lot of people doing it for money. A lot of ridiculous things. But there are some legitimate questions that have surfaced from what I've seen. And would we have seen the legitimate questions come up if it wasn't for the clickbaiters either? If nobody was allowed to ask questions, I don't know if we would have even gotten there. But anyway, last thing I want to cover here, and this might take a little longer than everything else that I've discussed, but we're finally getting something that I would consider to be, I don't even know what to describe this as. I think this is what I've been waiting for in terms of like Trump defining his legal authorities. But yesterday, the story came out, and this is from the New York Times. I don't know if they were the first one to report it, but it's kind of fascinating. We've seen this saga unfolding from the beginning where Trump does something, gets challenged in court. The court comes out initially, like the federal judges, the districts, the appeals, like they're like, nope, you can't do that. Nope, you can't do that. Nope, you can't do that. And then it gets to SCOTUS and they're like, well, yeah, he can't do that. And it's happened repeatedly. And now we have this. Trump determined the U.S. is now in a war with drug cartels, Congress is told. A notice calls the people the U.S. military recently killed on suspicion of drug smuggling in the Caribbean Sea unlawful combatants. President Trump has decided that the United States is engaged in a formal armed conflict with drug cartels his team has labeled terrorist organizations, and that suspected smugglers for such groups are unlawful combatants, the administration said in a confidential notice to Congress this week. Doesn't seem too confidential if we're reading about it. The notice was sent to several congressional committees and obtained by the New York Times. It adds new detail to the administration's thinly articulated legal rationale for why 3 U.S. military strikes the president ordered on boats in the Caribbean Sea last month, killing all 17 people aboard them, should be seen as lawful rather than murder. Mr. Trump's move, and keep in mind, guys, this is the New York Times, so there's a liberal leftist agenda-driven slant here where they want people to think that Trump just killed random citizens and that it was murder. But they're trying to explain Trump's rationale while believing the opposite, or at least their agenda is to push the opposite. Mr. Trump's move to formally deem his campaign against drug cartels as an act of armed conflict means he is cementing his claim to extraordinary wartime powers. Hell yeah. Legal specialists said, in a armed conflict, as defined by international law, a country can lawfully kill enemy fighters even when they pose no threat, detain them indefinitely without trials, and prosecute them in military courts. Jeffrey S. Korn, a retired judge advocate general lawyer, who was formerly the Army's senior advisor for law of war issues, said drug cartels were not engaged in hostilities, the standard for when there is an armed conflict for legal purposes against the United States, because selling a dangerous product is different from an armed attack. So this Jeffrey Korn guy, probably a lib. I'm going to read some more of this, and then I'll kind of give my comments on it. Noting that it is illegal for the military to deliberately target civilians who are not directly participating in hostilities, even suspected criminals, Mr. Korn called the president's move an abuse that crossed a major legal line. This is not stretching the envelope, he said. This is shredding it. This is tearing it apart. Anna Kelly, a White House spokeswoman, said in an email that the president acted in line with the law of armed conflict to protect our country from those trying to bring deadly poison to our shores. And he is delivering on his promise to take on the cartels and eliminate these national security threats for murdering more Americans. The Trump administration has called the strikes self-defense and asserted that the laws of war permitted it to kill rather than arrest the people on the boats because it said the targets were smuggling drugs for cartels it has designated as terrorists. The administration has also stressed that about 100,000 Americans die annually from overdoses. Now, it's a very interesting legal argument because what the Korn guy is saying is that, well, these people aren't actively, like, this isn't a shooting war, and so they're not a traditional enemy combatant. You can't do that. But then the Trump administration is saying, no, we declared these guys domestic terrorist organizations, and back in 2001 with the Patriot Act and all these other things, there's Supreme Court rulings that, like, yeah, foreign terrorist organizations can be treated as non-state actors and enemy combatants, and we can fight them. And then also, like, the drugs are killing a lot of people, and so we are declaring war on the drug cartels, the foreign terrorist organization drug cartels, Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and so we have every right to do this. And that's one of the things Trump did very early on. I think it was in February he declared Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization. On January 20th, when he first got into office, he declared what was happening at the border an invasion, and he militarized it and shut it down. And he's treated the illegal immigration and drug smuggling and human trafficking in this country as like its own little war. Like how Bush had a war on terror, right? And whether or not there was a real terror threat can definitely be argued based on some of the stuff we've seen. Go watch Codex 9/11. But the illegal immigration in this country, I mean, as far as I know, that was legitimate. And Trump has declared war on it. And when I said earlier that I've been waiting for, like, I think this might be the thing I've been waiting for, the reason I'm saying that is because part of the devolution series, you know, I think in order for Trump to even pull something like that off, he needed to use some sort of wartime authority. And so he needed to interpret something that happened as an act of war because there's legal precedent. There's legal precedent. Campbell versus Clinton. If you guys have been watching me for a while, you guys are very familiar with this. Whoopsie. Share my screen again. Right here. Recognizing that the president has no power to initiate or declare war, that's up to Congress, they observe that war may exist without a declaration on either side. In instances where war is declared against the United States by the actions of another country, the president does not initiate the war, but is bound to accept the challenge without waiting for any special legislative authority. Importantly, the court made clear that it would not dispute the president on measures necessary to repel foreign aggression. The president alone must determine what degree of force the crisis demands. And I absolutely just love this precedent here because I think it's the justification that satisfies any argument against something like devolution being implemented. And why I'm excited now and think like maybe this is it. I've been waiting to see this argument made in court by the Trump administration. And I think this is going to be one of those situations because we're already seeing pushback. And that's what this article is kind of laying the groundwork for. We're seeing pushback from people on the left and in Congress about whether Trump is legally and lawfully allowed to do what he's doing. And I fully think he is. obviously. But he's basically conducting a war because of the actions of another country. So Congress doesn't have to have Congress declare war. He's allowed to respond. And he's just notifying them because he's required to. I think that even says it here. The notice to Congress, which was deemed controlled but unclassified, cites a statute requiring reports to lawmakers about hostilities involving U.S. armed forces. Repeats the administration's earlier arguments, but goes further with new claims, including portraying the U.S. military's attacks on boats to be part of a sustained active conflict rather than isolated acts of claimed self-defense. Specifically, it says that Mr. Trump is determined, and I like that phrase because in here, the president alone must determine what degree of force the crisis demands. President Trump is determined that cartels engaged in smuggling drugs are non-state armed groups whose actions constitute an armed attack against the United States, and cites a term from international law, a non-international armed conflict, that refers to a war with a non-state actor. Because like Tren de Aragua and their broader ideologies, kind of like the Antifa, they don't have like a home. It's not like Brazil is sending these people directly as a country. You know, they're flying under a banner of this terrorist organization, not of that of a country. Based upon the cumulative effects of these hostile acts against the citizens and interests of the United States and friendly foreign nations, the president determined that the United States is in a non-international armed conflict with these designated terrorist organizations. The notice said, there are different kinds of wars, and the concept of a non-international armed conflict developed the 20th century law to mean a civil war in one country as opposed to a war between two or more nation states. So now they're going back to like, well, that's not the constitutional definition. Okay, but then how did we go fight Al-Qaeda? How did we go fight terrorist groups? After the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001, they're going to tell us here. When the United States went to war against Al-Qaeda, a non-state actor operating across multiple countries, some legal scholars objected that the Bush administration was stretching the rules to justify using wartime powers against a group they likened more to a criminal band of pirates, or maybe a drug cartel. The Supreme Court found that the conflict with Al-Qaeda was a real war. Weird. I wonder if they'll find it's a real war with Tren de Aragua. I bet they do. It blessed as lawful the Bush administration's use of wartime powers to hold captured Al-Qaeda members in indefinite detention without trial, while also saying the government was bound by the Geneva Conventions to treat such prisoners humanely and not torture them. But yeah, I think this is such a interesting moment here. And it goes back to, I tried going through last night some of the Tren de Aragua and the Alien Enemies Act cases to see if the Supreme Court has already answered some of those questions. The Alien Enemies Act one was the one I focused on because I was like, okay, well, that itself is a wartime authority. When it got to Supreme Court, you know, they basically, they sent it back down. There was a stay that was put on deporting some of these people using the Alien Enemies Act, and the Supreme Court was like, well, we're removing that stay because you have to challenge it under habeas, which they didn't. They didn't actually argue any of the merits of the case. But I've been saying, I want one of these cases, one of these cases to get to the Supreme Court where people are challenging Trump's authority to use wartime powers, and then Trump and his team come in and make the argument for it. And the reason I want that is because I want to be able to map that onto what we witnessed with the 2020 election and him implementing what I believe to be devolution. Because I think he used wartime authorities to do it. And I've always pointed back to this Campbell versus Clinton case. And I would imagine that gets cited in any future arguments, but maybe there's more. Maybe there's something I missed. Like, I'm not a legal scholar, and I found that legal precedent a long time ago. I've only gotten more sophisticated and better in my research since then, but I haven't looked. So maybe there's even better arguments. But that one, to me, satisfied all like question marks I had personally in my head about whether Trump had the authority to do something like that, and whether he'd be questioned on it. I mean, he'd certainly be questioned on it, but whether he could make the argument to not just the court of public opinion, but the actual courts that, like, yeah, this is what I did. This is why I did it. This is the justification for it. Both like court of public opinion wise and legally. Not that I ever think they're actually going to disclose it, the devolution stuff. But just the fact that they might argue something along those lines is very intriguing to me. So anyway, guys, I do got to get out of here. So I got to finish cleaning up the house and then get to the airport. So I will not be on OnlyLands tonight, but I will be on the Power Hour tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune in. Then I'll also be back again next week. I'm going to do a quick ad spot from Soft Disclosure, and then we'll get you guys out of here. You guys have a great rest of your Friday. Great weekend.
They say confidence starts with a smooth skin. And baby, Soft Disclosure Lotion delivers.
I swear by this stuff. Like, I kid you guys not. This is the first lotion I've ever had in my entire life that, like, I don't get ashy after I put it on any part of my body. Like, my hands are always dry, and my hands have not gotten ashy without, like, rinsing them through water and washing them with soap since I started putting Soft Disclosure on. Like, it is Black Man approved. I kid you not.
Black Man approved. You heard him. And let's be real. If it can handle his hands, it can handle anything.
Feet are like, they get so dry, like the heels of them, it'll just kind of like flake off. Like, but with Soft Disclosure, once you put it on, like it starts to absorb it.
Yeah, he went there. Don't worry, we won't show you his feet, but trust us, they're smoother too. Soft Disclosure Lotion is made with aloe, goat's milk, honey, and our exclusive oil blend that actually restores your skin barrier. Visit softdisclosure.com, use code BADLANDS, and get 15% off.
Let's get started. That's what she said. Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me?